Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today, we're going to be talking about the sophomore album from Clean Bandit called What Is Love? So this is the sort of review that I've got no real idea why I'm making a full review. Well, at least beyond the most cynical of responses, which is that Clean Bandit have several songs that have attracted a lot of attention worldwide, and this review will likely wind up getting some traffic for relatively little effort on my part. It's cynical, but it's likely true. But is that a fair assessment, especially given how many singles worldwide Clean Bandit have notched the more distinctive blend of tropical elements, classical strings, and grooves that don't feel beholden to overweight trap percussion? Well, yes and no. I'll admit I've never really loved a Clean Bandit song before this album. They've got this weirdly pristine but fussy nature that can come across as over-sanitized and underwritten, and yes, I include their biggest hit, Rather Be, in that category, but I wouldn't really say I dislike them either. Yeah, the personality of any given song is more dependent on their guest stars, and to expect a cohesive album's a complete crapshoot, and it's hard not to feel like a lot of their music is custom designed for department stores that are trying to sound hip in the modern age, but they can land some good melodies, and while their first album didn't really impress me at all, I mean, it's decent, but it's not great, maybe their follow-up would be okay, even if it feels like I've already heard a significant chunk of it. Yeah, that's the other thing about reviewing an electronic project like this. The album feels more like a singles compilation, but hey, that's normally the formula for great pop albums, so I'm not gonna really hold it much against Clean Bandit here, even if it just feels like it probably should have been dropped a year or so ago. So what do we get on What Is Love? Well, I don't know, here's the thing. After multiple listens to What Is Love, I completely get why fans of their first project, and especially of Rather Be, they may have turned on this project pretty harshly, because to put it bluntly, What Is Love is a sort of messy project that not only feels more like a compilation of fragmented ideas, but also of production styles that are further from what Clean Bandit is comfortable, which came at the expense of the string-accented electronica fusion in favor of something that's far more conventional within mainstream pop and electronic music. And not only that, given the extended development time and having released entirely too many singles, What Is Love, it feels even more scattered, a chronology of riding trends and sounding ever so slightly dated all the way until the very end. And yet, given where pop is right now, arguably at one of its lowest points, drowned out in bassy, desaturated trap, and that I was never a huge fan of Clean Bandit's unique aesthetic in the past, I won't deny that I found slices of this project kind of enjoyable enough to save it. Like it or not, Clean Bandit's got to focus on melody and a well-structured hook, and if there's a core of anything to hold this together, it's more of that than any one particular style, which paradoxically might wind up holding up better in the long term, believe it or not. So yeah, this is pretty decent too. Now, of course, the first massive qualifier that needs to be tacked onto this is that all these songs are incredibly dependent upon the person singing here and whether or not they can match with Clean Bandit's glistening keys, the faster tapping percussion and grooves, and the organic accents splitting across strings and a surprising amount of Spanish guitar and ukulele. And this means that you're dealing with the possibility of 4 different tones blended in various combinations across this album, from their classical strings balanced out with electronica to more tropical leaning grooves followed up with some choppy reggaeton, and even hints of some more modern stuttering trap percussion. And like with any Clean Bandit song, if you start breaking it out into pieces, you notice just how tenuous a lot of the construction is. Now, if you're a singer who can't really fit within that architecture, or you might require a little bit more space to spread out, you're gonna sound pretty hemmed in. In comparison with a producer like, say, Kygo, you fit within Clean Bandit's spaces, not the other way around. And while the most immediate evidence of this comes on Solo with Demi Lovato, which thanks to the strings melody has inexplicably grown on me since I covered it and mostly panned it on Billboard Breakdown, but it's also a lot more evident on the rickety trap hi-hats, the choppy acoustics, the too tight multi-tracking, and the warped post-chorus guitar lead for Ellie Goulding. Producers really need to learn to give her some space, for God's sake. That's where she sounds really good. And again, while you might be able to understand the inconsistency given how scattered this album feels, and appreciate when it hits some great moments, which it does, because Zara Larsson against the rubbery bass, the sharp synths, and the swells of strings on Symphony, Marina and the Diamonds bringing her throatier register against the choppy acoustics of Baby opposite Luis Fonsi, ALMA ending the album with a thicker choral swell supporting her in the sandy groove on In Us I Believe. You know what? Even Anne-Marie redeeming herself for the confused mediocrity of Rockabye on Shoulda Known Better, with some of the gentle piano melodies melodies playing against them surprisingly strongly off the skittering tropical trap blend, but they're not the majority. In particular, I feel pretty bad for Kyle, whose looser delivery loses so much of its fun against the much sharper skitter on Out at Night, which is a much tighter groove, and then playing opposite Rita Ora on the blocky, strangely contained fizz of Nowhere. I mean, neither song is outright bad, but if there were songs where a tropical bounce or an acoustic guitar could be used, it's with Kyle. And then there's Julia Michaels on I Miss You. Look, she's already not a good singer whatsoever. I've talked about her before, so then pressing the synth and the strings into weedy mush for the post-chorus drop, it doesn't help out anyone, and it's easily the weakest song here. But here's the big question. Once you finish just describing a lot of the production of these songs, what else is there even to really say about this project? Yeah, I mean, the lyrics are a little bit darker this time around, the relationships seem a little bit more troubled or fragmented, but it's rare they pick up much idiosyncrasy or nuance. And sure, it's electronic music, that's kind of to be expected, especially near the mainstream, but the only time I really notice the songwriting is when it does something that's kind of weird or offbeat, like the weird censorship of the swearing on Solo, or the awkward darkness of the single mother story on Rockabye. And those are just the singles. Why, for instance, is Ellie Goulding peppering Mama with Spanish? Or why did Kyle seem to forget to flip the pronouns to the chorus after the second verse of Out at Night, which could have made the song a lot more interesting if it didn't just feel like a mistake instead of a progressive subversion? I don't know. I guess if I were to highlight songs that did capture a bit of unique lyrical detail, they'd be in isolated snippets. Beyond the extended metaphor of Symphony, which I actually kind of liked, I did like We Were Just Kids and the interplay between Kristen Joy and Craig David, reminiscing on a long-lost teenage romance that just feels kind of melancholic and wistful, even if the song does feel like a straight rip-off of Kids in Love by Kygo from last year. And you know what? Say what you will about Anne-Marie's bluntness, in terms of exasperated breakup songs, she kind of nails Should've Known Better. But beyond that, look, it's just kind of thin overall, which means I'm just stuck clinging to whatever good melodies I can find in order to hold these more simpler songs up. Now, thankfully, there are more good melodies than bad here, and I will admit, this is pretty decent. Again, it's not great, and if you're coming from that debut album expecting to find more of the same, especially that personality, you will be disappointed. But there is something almost kind of old-fashioned in Clean Bandit's relentless focus on melodic interplay, energy, hooks, and grooves that I can respect, which is enough to net this a light 6 out of 10 and a recommendation if you're curious, albeit probably not if you're a fan. Again, it's more of a scattered collection of singles since 2016. You probably will have heard a bunch of these already, and I won't claim any of this is not disposable, but it hits more often than it doesn't, and compared to most of the desaturated murk that passes for pop and EDM right now, I'll take what I can get. So, yeah, go ahead. Check it out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. I know this review might get controversial for the Clean Bandit fans, but hey, the poll's up there. Y'all can tell me how wrong I am. Beyond that, if you want to actually buy or stream the album, links down there below. Anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you guys want to get involved in my scheduling process or help support the channel, so other certain reviews that you guys are already asking for can come up sooner, link to my Patreon right over there, where 3 times a week you guys get to vote on my schedule, and once a week for the higher tier contributors, guys get to add albums, movies, or even a top 10 list to that schedule. More details right over there. If you want to see my schedule, it's on my Instagram, link down there below. But till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.